Hi, welcome back to HANA Developer channel. My name is Shrikant. Today we're going to look at the source control for native HANA objects using GitHub. A GitHub is a complete replacement to HANA repository which was used for source control in HANA Studio in earlier releases of SAP HANA. I'm going to give a little background to Git or GitHub before we do this exercise. Basically, Git is an open source technology used to make object versioning in agile development projects. It allows multiple developers to work in same application at the same time without affecting the other's code. It also provides a lot of flexibility to merge your code with the other developers by resolving conflicts as well. With all of these nice features, Git is now used for source control of HANA database objects also. Actually, Git was introduced as a source control in SAP Cloud Platform for HTML5 or UI5 developments in Web IDE. So it's not new here, but it's just that for DB artifacts also, now we're going to use this one. I'm going to access Web IDE for HANA or also the GitHub or the public GitHub repository which I have created before in my account. I'm going to show you three different scenarios in order to build my database objects in my Web IDE for HANA and then publish those objects code into my GitHub repository. There's going to be several commits into my GitHub repository, and I'm also going to show you some of the changes which are committed in my GitHub repository pulled back into my local repository of Web IDE for HANA. Let's get started with that. I'm in my Web IDE for HANA. I created a project which is named as source control. It's a very simple project which is created as a template to MTA, and I got my MTA YAML file here, and it had a simple core DB database module created as a one CDS artifact created for this project. It's going to be a simple table which contains two fields, ID and name in it. This is my application. I'm going to create a local repository to my application, and then I make it remote to my GitHub public repository. So basically I'm trying to push my code which is available in this project to the central public repository, which is my GitHub public repository right here. I'm going to create a new repository in my public repository GitHub. So I'm going to name this as HANA dev. I can just say HANA. I'm going to initialize with this Readme file. My repository has been created here, and then I'm going to access my Web IDE for HANA, and then I'm going to create a local repository for my project. So I'm going to right click on my source control project and say git and initialize local repository. My local repository was initialized, and I'm going to set a remote repository. So it's going to ask me for the URL of the public GitHub repository, which I already have it here. I'm going to take the URL from this GitHub and I'm going to use it in here. This is going to create a master branch in my local workspace because I'm actually referring to the public GitHub repository's master branch. So I'm saying okay, and I need to provide my credentials. And then it's going to sync. Now my local repository has been synced with the public repository of GitHub. Since my both repositories of local and as well as GitHub are in sync, now I'm going to pull the public repository objects into my local repository. For that, I'm going to choose pull from the Git pane here. As soon as my pull has been completed, I can see a new file showing up here, which is the Readme file from my public repository. So the Readme file just contains the description as HANA. I'm going to see that right here. Now I'm going to make some changes to my readme file and also make all these objects which are in my local repository to be available in my GitHub repository. For that, I'm going to just say adding a text to the readme file, initial save, and then also stage all. All the objects of my local repository are now going to be saved first, saving my local project, and I'm going to commit it. So as soon as I commit, it's committing to my local repository here. Once my changes are committed, I'm going to push this to remote branch. My master branch showed up here. I'm going to push this to my remote branch. Push request completed successfully. So now I'm going to show how does it look like here in my public repository. Now you can see that all the my project objects are shown here, which is core DB. You can see my source folder, which is the my serious artifact with the 2 fields, etc. Also, I can see how many commits have been made to this repository. So you can see from my the branch master. Currently, we have just master branch, and I can see 4 commits in here. Since from the initial commit and then to the saving local project by this user from my Web IDE for HANA. Each change contains a technical ID generated by GitHub to track what changes are made with respect to that particular commit. Now I'm going to make some more changes to my local repository and then push to public repository. So I'm going to add adding my first object change, and I also save it. I'm going to open my CDS file with the code editor, and I'm going to add another field for this one. That's it. I'm going to save it. And then I can see all the changes I've made in my local repository in my Git pane here. So I'm going to select them and then stage it. And then I'm going to commit them by saying saving the serious change. It's committed to my local repository, and I'm now going to push it to my remote. Push request has been sent, and then it's completed successfully. So I can go to my repository, GitHub repository, and see that my readme file is being updated with my first object change, and also I can see my core DB module with the source code is also updated with the new field, which is my new field country here. And then next I'm going to show you how to pull this request. So there could be multiple commits happening to the master branch from different developers as well. So when I'm going to start my work on this object again tomorrow, so I'm going to pull this request first and then start from there. If there is no change to the master branch in my GitHub, I don't really need to make any changes, but in case if there are any changes, I'm going to take the latest status from the master branch from the remote GitHub repository. So I'm going to pull this one. So it's going to get me all the latest version from my public GitHub repository, and then I make my changes and then commit them to local repository, and finally I make a push to the public repository. So this is a simple scenario where you typically start developing your objects. Could be your CDS artifacts or calculation views, tables, etc., and then commit them to your local repository and then push to a remote repository. In my next scenario, I'm going to create a branch to the master branch. Usually we don't really go and update the master branch every time while working on a project. We create our own branch to start our developments. It could be a new idea or new project development work which is going to be started, whatever. But I'm always going to start creating my changes in a branch, a specific development branch, not the master branch. So I'm going to explain that scenario now. So I'm going to use the same project and I'm going to create a remote branch first. The source for my remote branch is going to be my remote master branch, not my local. It's going to base the remote master branch which is available in my public repository, and I'm going to name this as XSA and OK. It's going to create a remote branch in my GitHub public repository. I can see that here. So as soon as in my branches I can see master and also another branch. So my development branch also contains the same objects of what a master branch contains, because I just copied or actually created a copy of my master branch into my development branch. So now I'm going to access that remote branch into my local branch. Currently I'm in master branch here in my local repository as well. So for that I'm going to create a local branch from the Git here, create local branch. What is going to be my source is going to be my XSA dev branch to XSA local branch. Now I get a different branch. You can see from here XSA, that is my local branch for in this repository. Yeah, you can see that my local repository also has got two branches. One is master and XSA. So I'm always going to work on this local branch and then push my changes to the GitHub branch, remote branch XSA. And then finally I'm going to commit all the changes to the master branch when I'm done with my final changes. So I'm going to make some more changes to the Readme file here. Working on branch 1, and also I'm going to make save it. I'm also making a change to this file. Sorry, I'm going to open this as a text editor, a code editor. So I'm going to change the name of the actually the length of the field and then save it. Whatever I'm making the changes are applicable only to this development branch, which is XSA, not to the master branch. So all my changed objects are showing up in my stage window. I'm going to select them and then I'm going to save it. Branch 1 changes. I'm going to commit, and once it is committed I'm going to push the remote branch. So I got an option now to push it either to master or the XSA branch. Since I'm working in XSA branch, I'm not going to touch the master branch at any point of time, so I'm always going to push it to my remote sub branch. A push request has been completed. I can go and check my push. Yes, so there is a request has been pushed into my public repository, which I can see that I just need to refresh it. So this is, I'm in XSA branch, so you can see that working on branch 1 comment has been added. I can also go into my source folder and see the CDS file length has been changed to 9. If, at the same time, if I go to my master branch, it wouldn't have any changes affected because my master is still accurate to the previous version, which another developer can still take on it. So I'm going to access my compare and pull request. Now I have got a change from my branch, which is XSA. I wanted to merge this change into the master branch so that the other developers can take that change from there. So I'm going to use the compare and pull request, giving a comment as branch 1 changes, and then create a pull request. The pull request in public Git repository is different from pull action in Web IDE for HANA, which is local. So this pull request I'm creating to sending a request to the master branch to accept my branch changes. So here there is no conflict. So I'm going to merge the pull request. Branch 1 changes, I'm confirming merge. As soon as my merge is being completed, my master branch also will be changed according to the dev branch. So now I can see that both will be in same version. I'm going to show you code. I'm going to access master branch. You can see that the working on branch 1 comment has been added to master branch files as well. So now my master and XSA branch both are in sync. So that's how I make some changes in my local repository as a branch change, a sub branch change, then push it to the other sub branch, and then finally I'm going to merge that into the master branch. Similarly, there are going to be multiple developers who are going to create their own branches in their um, systems, and then keep developing their objects, and then push those changes to the development branches, and then finally a pull request will be created, and then finally it's going to get committed or actually merged into the master branch. So that's how the actual development with source control works. So I'm also going to show you the third scenario, which is working on the same object with a different developer use access. So that I'm going to log out to it and then log back on with a different user. Initially, as soon as I enter into my Web IDE for HANA, I'm not going to have any of the previous project set up on my my other developer's local repository. This is developer 2's local repository. So I'm going to set it up. I'm not going to start from the um, stage 1. I can easily copy the existing repository, which is going to be clone or download, and I just get it copied. And I'm going to have this workspace and then clone that repository. So I'm going to get entire project what is in public Git repository into my developer 2 workspace as well. So I can see the latest version what the other developer has been working so far and committed and merged into the master branch. I can create a local branch as a second developer for this one. I'm going to use create local branch. with respect to the sub-branch from the remote server. I'm going to name this as XSA dev2 in my developer2. um, a local branch has been created now. Then I can start making some more changes to it. So I'm going to add some more text. Working on branch 2. I can also make a serious artifact changed. Sorry, I'm going to use a text editor or code editor for this one. I'm going to have it as 11 now and save it. Now I'm going to make these changes saved, which is going to be commit, and then push it to remote branch. So I'm going to push this to a sub branch of this one. Say OK, and then I'm going to give my credentials because it's a different workspace. I'm using it. A push request has been sent. Now I can go to my public repository and check. I'm going to open the other branch, which is XSA. Now I can see that the other developer change is being pushed to branch to change. And I can also check that my CoreDB serious file also would be changed. Now I can make a new pull request and then to accept the changes from the second branch, and then merge it into the master branch, so that my master branch also will get the change from the developer 2. When my final version, which is tested and accepted by all the other developers in the project, accepted and approved in the master branch, then I can take that from the master branch and then deploy it into the database folder, which is going to be building in my Web IDE for HANA. So as soon as I build my project, it's going to deploy my objects into my database, and then I can test them. If any further changes required, I'm going to do this same process again and again until my testing is being completed and it's good for production. The administrator is going to take the code from my master branch and then move it to a quality system or production system wherever it is applicable. So that's all about working on Web IDE for HANA database developments by collaborating with several developers using GitHub. I hope it's very helpful, and thanks again. Bye-bye.